Good evening, people of Chicago. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, listeners of Progressive Minds. We welcome back to the show. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking new black leadership, and the person to help us with the conversation is no mean person than the founder himself, Minister Michael Mohammed is in the seat. We're gonna talk to Michael Mohammed, who is the founder of the new Black Leadership. Mr. Michael Mohammed, welcome to the Progressive Mind Show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Please tell us who is Minister Michael Mohammed?
Well, first of all, I'm a descendant of chattel slaves here in America. I'm about the fourth generation out of slavery. My great-great-grandmother, along with her eldest daughter, migrated here directly out of chattel slavery and came north to make a life here in Chicago. And my whole life, from a very young age, has been dedicated to primarily two principles. The first one is a love of Almighty God, and the second one is a love of black people. And so those loves, those driving forces have pushed me and pulled me in many different directions to sit at the feet of my elders and be taught and schooled and baptized in the responsibilities to our struggle. So my greatest mentor is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who I joined on to at a very young age, around 17 years old. And I had several mentors prior to that who, unbeknownst to me, were handing me off into his direction. And so I have accumulated a body of work, a body of service to black people, particularly in America, under the ideal and the belief that Almighty God has had a purpose for our suffering, and that He's also placed a calling on my life to serve His purpose for our suffering. And so I have served in the ministry from a very, very young age. I became the first national youth minister in the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I just was busy working and had the opportunity to oversee several congregations within the network of our mosque structure, as well as all along being an activist, being involved with other black organizations. In fact, I started out as even a preteen, if you will, at Operation Push, which is led by Reverend Jesse L. Jackson. I was a student protege of a brother named Steve Coakley, who is a renowned researcher in the black community. And so I finally wound up under the umbrella of Minister Farrakhan, who has had the greatest impact on my life. So I've tried to continue that work outside of the religious domain, if you will, by being involved with activism, being inspired to use one of the gifts that God has given me to be able to organize people, to try to organize our people in the community. And currently, out of that vein, I was inspired to make a call to young activists and organizers back in 2002, 2003, that we all needed to get better connected. We all needed to come together on a regular basis. We all needed to communicate. We all needed to give critical feedback to one another, that we might share from each other's strengths, and that we might overcome each other's weaknesses, that we might better serve our people who are indeed hurting and suffering misrepresented and underrepresented at every level. And so we have been trying to expand that vision of a small table that met behind closed doors to a larger table to call in all activists and organizers, in specifically those that fight for black people primarily and exclusively almost, to come together on a regular basis, that we might create a platform for accountability. We might create a platform to be better educated and exposed to information that would help us better serve our community, and that we could come together and put our egos to the side, put our differences to the side, put petty grievances to the side, and try to deliberate on the critical issues of the day, that we might have a greater impact in changing the paradigm in the black community, where we have leaders that are all about themselves and leaders that bow down to the powers that be, that assimilate so strongly into the system that they really don't produce any good for the community. And so, in short, I am a servant, and that's what the title minister means. I am a servant, and I believe in the model of servant leadership. And I learned that servant leadership model from my mentor, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and now I'm trying to cajole, encourage, motivate, and in some cases impose that model of leadership on other black activists, organizers, advocates, etc.
Would you consider yourself a motivational speaker?
In some days I wear that hat, yes.
Okay. Let's know. I'm interested in knowing if you have families around, or if, are your families also situated in the city of Chicago or they're scattered around? Tell us a little bit about your family background.
Yes, as I said earlier,
I mean, in terms of your nucleus family.
Yes, my nuclear family, my family of origin is primarily here in Chicago.
Okay.
But it's also in a few other cities around the country, but primarily Chicago. We were one of the first families, early families, to go out to an area of Chicago known as Morgan Park, just as Morgan Park was becoming a part of Chicago. And so there was a enclave in Morgan Park, or a section, where black people had to stay, and there was a line that you couldn't cross to go into West Morgan Park,
okay,
which was predominantly an Irish enclave, and so we grew from there, and so most of my primary family is right here somewhere in the Chicagoland area.
So are there kids?
Yes, I have children.
Okay.
I've been married twice, and I have children from both of those marriages, daughters, who are also here in Chicago.
Are you a sports fan?
Well, I am a former basketball athlete
okay,
and football athlete.
Okay.
So I'm somewhat of a fan. I don't spend almost any time watching sports now, because I've been on about a 3-year fast from television.
Okay.
So I have not watched a regular game. Probably in the last year I may have seen one regular basketball game and one regular football game, and that was because I was at somebody's house visiting.
And you say if you're fasting from TV, does that include CNN, ABC, none of that?
No, very little of that, actually.
Okay.
Very little of that, actually. I do a lot of reading of news. I do catch clips because I do kind of poke around on social media here and there. But I found television to be distracting from my ability to focus
on the things that matter to you.
On the things that matter to me.
So what do you do to relax if you want to?
Well, actually, I do play basketball once a week, and that's and I do normally I do martial arts about once a week. I'm also a black belt martial artist. And so
is that Taekwondo or?
It's a Korean martial arts that is called Kuksul Won.
Kuksul Won, okay.
Which is Korean Royal Court martial arts.
Okay. Is that specifically for self-defense like Taekwondo is, or
well,
both?
Taekwondo is technically not considered a martial art.
Okay.
It is technically a sport. It was created for Olympic competition. And so it is used like a martial art, but technically it's not a martial art. It is Korean, however, but no, Kuksul Won is a conglomeration of Korean Royal Court martial arts, Buddhist monk martial arts, and tribal martial arts.
So that's all that combined.
It's all combined into one system.
And that's called the Kunjun.
Kuksul Won.
Kuksul Won.
It's very similar to Hapkido.
Hapkido.
But it's a little more, it has, some additions to it that you may not get in Hapkido.
Okay. We will go into the conversation, but I'm a sports person. I like Asian martial art. I like martial arts, so you're arousing my interest in there.
Right.
Which one is more difficult? Because I know there is Kung Fu, there's Shaolin, there is. Which one would you say is more difficult and it's more deadly if you possess that kind of skill?
Well, you have to answer that question in two parts.
Okay.
The first part is technical, and it's a little subjective, right? So I would say from a street, everyday situation, I would lean toward Wing Chun or Jeet Kune Do or Krav Maga.
All right, we don't know this. I mean, some of them I don't know, but which one does Chuck Norris practice?
Chuck Norris's style is a form of Japanese karate.
Okay, how about Jackie Chan?
Jackie Chan is a Chinese, probably. I don't think he's Shaolin, but he's practicing some form of a Chinese martial arts. It may be Tai Chi.
Okay.
It may be
Jet Li. How about Jet Li?
Jet Li is pretty much, to my understanding, a Wing Chun guy.
Okay, all right. Let's come to Minister Michael Muhammad and this new group. Of course, it's new. How long has this group been in existence?
Since 2003.
Since 2003, and you were a minister. Did you earn that title by maybe serving in a church, going to a theology school? How did you earn that title?
Yes, all of that.
Okay.
I was trained first in ministry, as I said, by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I went through about 3.5 years of what I call intense training that included, traveling with him.
Okay.
As well as being taken through intense study of religion from a comparative religion perspective, as well as supplementing that training by undergoing other certificates and certifications that were extra to that core training that I received as a minister in the under the auspices of the Nation of Islam.
Does that training include studying both the Bible and the Quran?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Does the training also include fasting for longer?
Absolutely.
Okay, brilliant. Let's come to new black leadership. We know there are several black leadership groups, but they're not called leadership,
right.
like yours literally is. So what distinguishes yours from the other black leadership groups that are out there already?
Well, I'm not sure which groups you have in mind.
Well, there is the NCAA.
NCAA.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
NAACP, pardon
Okay.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
well, those groups are what you might call legacy groups.
Okay.
Right? Meaning they started late 1800s, early, mid 1800s. Most of those groups had as their core some mission to serve black people, to fight segregation or lynching or some level of discrimination.
Okay.
And those groups still exist today, but they've become more assimilated, more mainstream, if you will. Most of them have lost their radical edge, if they ever had one. And so they, while they do some good work, they are more prone to embrace the system and find that the system offers solutions to our 400-year-old problem as black people here in America.
All right.
And so we disagree with that. And so our group is, everybody in our group has been mentored or served as a protege under some pro-black, nationalistic, revolutionary, Pan-Africanist black leader in our community.
Okay.
And went through that mentorship and earned the right to stand up in their own voice and try to do good work and extend the work of the one under whom they served as a protege. So we fight exclusively for black people, unapologetically. We are not fighting for people of color because we find that is a dog whistle. We find that is a code word that is used to distract us from the special needs that black people who were captive chattel slaves in America still need, even in 2019,
Right.
that other groups don't have a need or a right to. We fight. We don't mix agendas. So our agenda is focused on extracting results, resources, and justice from the system for our hurting, suffering people, many of whom who are so disconnected from the knowledge of themselves and a consciousness about who they are and what they deserve that they don't know that they're suffering because our people have suffered so long that that's the only thing we know. And so it becomes normalized to us. So we fight for that level of our people, the grassroots masses of our people, and we're not willing to compromise with the LGBTQ community. We're not willing to compromise with the Democrats or the Republicans. We're not willing to align ourselves with anything other than that which speaks to the hurt, pain, and the will provide a redress to this condition that black people in America have suffered as a collective, and people gloss over it or exploit it. So that's what makes our group a little different, is that we have a lot of radical members in our group in their own way. Some of us are more radical than others, but all of us understand the basic premise that I just articulated.
That's wonderful. It's also interesting, or it will be interesting for our listeners to know some of the members that are some of the, I would say, top members, the executives that are on your that are with your organization. So we have Dr. Lance Williams, PhD co-founder. He's a sociologist. We have Theo Hardiman, a violence interruptus. And then William Doc Walls, he's a political activist. We have Fahim Shabazz, Chai Rock Hip Hop Nation, and Arnes Dancy. Arnes, I don't know if it's a female or it's a male.
That's a brother.
That's a brother. Okay,
yes.
He is an economist, activist. We have Bamani Obadele. Also, that sounds Nigerian a little bit.
Well, he took a pilgrimage to the motherland,
Ghana, and then took on a name.
And took on a name.
Got it. And then there's Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., who was prisoners of consciousness.
He's the son of Fred Hampton Sr., who was the renowned chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, who was assassinated here in Chicago.
Okay, Joseph, if they're listening, they can also call in, and so we can talk more about New Black Leadership. Joseph Watkins, late Saving Our Seeds, and then Minister Raheem C. Anton, founder the Temple of Mercy Association. D'Angelo Murray is an activist. Johnny Mohammed is also an activist and organizer. And then we have Enoch Mohammed, who is a co-founder of Hip Hop Detox.
There's a few more there.
There's a few more behind here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there's a few more. Okay. So the founders board, these are the people that are on the board, right?
Well, everyone you just named except myself are founding members.
Members. Okay. And founding members, in addition to being board members as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Great. So we have T.J. Crawford. He's an activist and an organizer. Roland Davis is BOP, which is Business Center and Projects 5000. Raven Fellows, my own brother. He is the Books Over Balls. Actually, he's the founder of Books Over Balls. Yeah. Cyron Smith is with National Blog Club Union / University. And then we have Chris Moore, the late. The late means the okay, got it. Yes. Chris Moore, the late, was with Exodus Renewal Society. Greg Sane is a public speaker and youth advocate. Then we have Kwesi Harris, also the late, may he so rest in peace, African American Male Resource Center. Dr. Kim Dulani, PhD, is an author, professor, and businesswoman. And three more. Samuel Mohammed is North Star United Missionary Workers of America. David Peterson is A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum. And Dr. Kelly Harris, PhD, is a political scientist. You have great people on here.
Yes.
What are some of the goals? I know you mentioned a few fighting for the rights or things that matter for the African American people, period.
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the goals? What do you intend to achieve? Now, you've been assistant for 3 years. What do you intend to achieve within the next 10 years?
Well, we've been established since 2003.
Okay.
So, but currently, right now, one of our greatest efforts is we are kind of going against the grain in terms of the political status quo in Black Chicago. So while most of our community has been divided around whichever personality they lined up behind, we're trying to push leadership in the community to come out of personality politics, and let's build a agenda and a platform and a system whereby we keep pressure on our elected officials to deliver the resources that we deserve in our community. And so we have a big meeting coming up Saturday, March 23rd, where we're going to talk about how we do that. We're going to deliberate and discuss what are the basic tenets and platform of a Black agenda, and then begin to organize around that agenda, first on the city level, municipal level, then the county, then the state, to see if over the next 4 years, which will be the term of the next group of elected officials coming in locally, to see if over the next 4 years we can be more effective in terms of changing the status quo, creating a new paradigm in Chicago where elected officials feel obligated and are not afraid to give Black Chicago some redress, because we've been exploited by the system ever since the death of Harold Washington, and the loss of the mayoral seat from Eugene Sawyer. Our tax dollars, our fees and fines and whatnot have all gone to other wealthy communities to develop other wealthy communities at our expense. And so we have to change that paradigm. And so we want to organize ourselves in a way that we can go as far as we need to go in order to impose a paradigm shift on city government. Because it's been too long. They've done everything that you can do to a people except roll buses down the street and load us up on buses and transport us to concentration camps. We're right there. They're shooting us down like animals in the street. They're exploiting our tax dollars. As I said, they're building up downtown. They're building up Rogers Park and Andersonville and West Rogers Park. They're going to build up this new development. Lincoln Yards, yes. They've ceded much of our land on the west side to the movie studio, and they're giving them more and more land by day, and giving them tax breaks and tax incentives while we don't have black people employed down there. Every major company or corporation that wants to set up shop here, they get tax abatement while our taxes are going up. So if you look across the board, it's total exploitation and oppression of the black community. They shut down our schools. Rahm Emanuel shut down over 50 CPS schools where our children were, where our wives, our daughters, our aunties and grandmamas were working, making a decent and affordable living to provide a quality standard of life for those children that they had at home. He's decimated our community. The business community has pulled out of our community. We can go across the board. Okay, poor food quality in our community, food deserts in our community, higher prices on food, even the liquor in our community. You go in the liquor stores in our community, you get 40 ounces, you get Blast, you get all this flavored liquor and all this cheap whiskey and wine that they don't sell in white communities. So it's exploitation of us across the board, and it's our fault because we, especially those of us in leadership, because we've been we do a little good and we feel good, start feeling good about ourselves, and our ego gets big. So now it becomes about us. So now we can't get along because I don't want you to have more press conferences than me. I don't want you to get a bigger grant than me. I don't want you to get in more meetings with the mayor or the alderman or the governor than I do. So we hating on each other. We despising one another, but we doing it all while we got the medallion that says we're authorized to speak for the masses of black people. So the masses of black people don't know the deals we cut in the back room. And so there's a stratification in leadership. There's weakness in leadership because we go after what we want and what we need at the expense of our people. And many of us who claim to be the blackest are the weakest of those who stand up in front of black people and in the name of black people.
We have a caller coming through. We'll take this call, and then after that we can go on our commercial break. Caller, please tell us your name and why you're calling.
Hi, my name is Tina Davis, and I was wondering what gives him the courage that he has, what he's doing right now.
I think we had a little break in the line. Can you repeat the last sentence, please?
What gives him the courage to do what he's doing now?
Okay, he got you.
I'm inspired by him.
All right, he got you. Hold tight. He's gonna respond.
Yes, thank you for your call, my sister. Well, to be honest, we have to give all praise to Almighty God because there's certain things we can't give to ourselves. Sometimes you're born with something that pulls you in even when you try to get out. Sometimes you're born with something that lays itself on you even when you run from it. So if you know anything about Scripture, there's a man in Scripture named Jonah. And Jonah had something in him that he was afraid of. And God kept calling Jonah, and Jonah kept on running. But God kept after him. And so a calling is like that. You will find that a calling pulls you in a certain direction, even when you don't know you're going in that direction. So that's why I talked about some of my mentors, and my biggest mentor, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because it's because of his example that I understand how to exercise the call that God put on me in the womb of my mother. And so I watched his courage in the face of vitriol and hatred. I watched him be ridiculed. I watched him be mocked and called crazy and vilified and called all of these evil, ugly names for speaking the truth and fighting for black people. And so that has shown me that God will make you the winner. Whether you live or you die in the struggle, God will make you the winner if you just fear no one but Almighty God and stand in the principles of truth. Then your blow, it may be only one blow out of many, but if you make your blow strong and based on truth, you will cause waves in the ocean of oppression with your one blow. And so that's all I'm trying to do, that I can look behind on my way off of this planet and feel proud that I served the Creator and that I've passed on a legacy to my children, that they can say they had a father who was not a coward, who didn't punk out, who didn't bow down to the oppressor, who set an example for them and a standard by which they have to try to lift themselves up to. So thank you, sister. Be of good courage. You are a child and servant of God as well.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful evening. We will go back to Michael Muhammad, who is Minister Michael Muhammad, who is the founder of New Black Leadership. Now, Michael, this is very inspiring what you're talking about with the New Black Leadership. At what point in time did you decide that no, I have to chant a different course and bring people on board to lead black people in this country?
Again, that's what I've been watching my whole life. That's what I've been watching my mentor and do my whole life.
So at what point in time did you say, okay, this one isn't for me, I got to move now?
Well, you know, this common quote we make in our community, in other communities, if you keep doing the same things the same way, you're going to get the same results, right? Mm-hmm. So when we look at, you know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us a saying where he said he gave us two sayings along the same line. The first one is, our unity is more powerful than a nuclear bomb. The second one is, our unity will win the battle. And so one of the things that people talk about when they look at black people in America is this kind of mystery on why we have so much wealth. We are probably, our collective spending ability in the United States would rank us somewhere between the 12th and the 13th largest nation on the planet. Mm-hmm. But we don't control any industry. Mm-hmm. We don't control our toilet paper. We don't control the water we drink. We don't control the shoes we wear. We don't control anything that controls us. We have some people who have a measure of control, but even those people are subjected to a dominant industry that is controlled by the very people who have sucked our blood and exploited us ever since they brought us here in the holds of ships. So if you look at every other ethnic community, there's a tendency for people of ethnic orientation to pull together. Not that they don't have divisions and disagreements, but there's a natural tendency they have to pull together. Mm-hmm. So we're the only community that you can look at within the body politic of America that has a natural tendency to go against each other.
Okay.
We don't have a natural tendency to pull toward each other. We have a natural tendency to go against each other. And so that is our problem. It's not that we don't have wealth or money, because we do. All you got to do is look at the news when a new pair of Air Jordan come out. Okay, all you got to do is, just look around. Like we have poverty, but we also have wealth. It's just that our mindset. We've been so destroyed mentally. We've been so robbed of the knowledge of ourselves and any connection to being one people. We don't have the mindset of one people. So when you say Ghanaian people. People who are Ghanaian, even if their father is Nigerian or their father could be Japanese and their mother's Ghanaian. But when you say Ghanaian people, their ears come, they know, they pulling toward your voice.
That's a tingling in
yes, it's because they know that means something. They know that has weight and value that's bigger than money, right? Our people don't have that concept. That was stripped from us in 310 years of chattel slavery, being forbidden to read, being beaten and sometimes killed if we were caught reading, being put in the holds of ships where we couldn't speak our native language. Otherwise, they would cut our tongues out. And they say the slave ships cut off so many black African tongues that the sharks would follow the ships because our tongues became a delicatessen. Damn. So even today, if you look in the black community, and it may be in some parts of different ethnic African communities from the continent as well, but especially in black people from Chicago, we walk down, all our women, 95% of our women are ashamed of their own hair. They got on fake hair. They don't love the hair that God gave them. When you look at us, you look at our brothers, we're imitating Al Capone and Meyer Lansky and Lucky Luciano. When we go into business, we get educated, we imitate Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. We want to be everything other than what God made us to be, right? We hate ourselves. So, and that makes us a disunified people. And then it's not just the little man who may have dropped out of school, it's the super educated. Because if you look at our super educated, the super educated impose on us the will and wishes of the white oppressor. So we have 18 aldermen in city council, but they don't create wealth in the black community. If you go through their wards, they have more vacant lots than new black businesses. If you look at the foreclosure rate in those wards where banks have come in and just literally ripped the foundation of real estate wealth, home ownership wealth out of the black community, you never seen them call a press conference and challenge the white banks for what they've done to black people in the exploitation of black people. We can go down the list. So even our so-called educated people who achieve status, they don't have a deep love for black people.
Why is that?
Because it was stripped from us.
Okay.
You got to understand, for 310 years, from 1555 to 1865, we were brutalized and tortured out of the love of ourselves. We were stripped first of our language. Once we were stripped of our language, you strip us of part of our mind.
And the names too, your original names.
Names, your name, when you strip me of my language, my name has to go. Right? And even if I retained a few words, if you caught me speaking those words, you might tie me to a pole and beat it out of me. If you heard me saying a name from my native language, you would tie me to a tree or a post or something. And as Alex Haley demonstrated in the movie Roots, they beat Kunta Kinte out of saying his name was Kunta and made him call himself Toby. Well, that's what happened to us. So that has been passed down generation after. When they let us go in 1865 off of the plantations, our minds were so destroyed. You know what over half of our people did? They didn't go for themselves. They returned back to the plantation. So sharecropping carried on another 50, 75 years. Some sharecropping, they say, is still going on. Because, so when you look at our community, my brother, we, and this is true in parts of the continent, the motherland, we want to bleach our skin.
Right?
We want to lighten our eyes with contacts.
A lot of people are bleaching back home.
Yes, yeah. Well, that used to be big in America first, but with the rise of the movement of Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, the Black Panther Party, and the Black Conscious Movement, that there was pushback from that, so they couldn't sell those products like that to us anymore at that point. So just like they did with cigarettes, see, they got us addicted to cigarettes, black people, right? But when the movement against smoking set in America, they transferred that market to other black people. So they were selling us bleaching creams. When we started to reject it, they went to our motherland and started pushing it on the continent, just like they did with cigarettes, right? So what we don't understand, what we fail to understand, what we underestimate is the power of social engineering. See, slavery in America is unlike any slavery in the history of the world, because it was not just a physical brutality, it was a system of psychological whitewashing of the mind and stripping you of your natural way of being, your natural way of thinking, any memory of your history of where you came from. Your culture, your rituals, your utterances, your language,
your values,
all your values, all those values were stripped from us in America. So that's why when many of you come here from the continent, we look like you. You know we're from you, but we act a little strange. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, because something happened to us that has never been put in textbooks. So when we go to school and we learn history, I don't care if you go to Yale, Harvard, Cairo, Egypt, the Sorbonne in Paris, wherever they don't put that in the history books. What white people in America did to black people to make us what we call niggas. God don't make niggas, but white people have. White people made niggas. But most of us don't know what that word means and why they called us that. See, the word nigga is a derivative of the word necro. And necro is a Greek term that is attached to anything that deals with death. So if you're a necrophiliac, you're a person who goes through hospitals and funeral homes having sex with dead bodies. But the word the prefix on the word necro is death. So necro, when it comes out in the translation of the English language, the alternate meaning, the sub meaning of that word nigger or negro is not just black, but it also implies a mental and spiritual death, because you've been totally stripped of any knowledge.
Your human realization actually is stripped off you.
Yes. So you don't know how to care for yourself. You don't know how to love yourself. You don't know how to take care of the skin God gave you. You don't know how to take care of the hair God gave you. You don't know what to do for your body, right? So if white people put on sunscreen, you put on sunscreen. And it don't even dawn on you that sunscreen is a artificial replacement of melanin. But you are from a people who are the original people on the planet to come up in the sun, who are endowed with melanin from the beginning. So your sunscreen is a gift from God. So you emulate white people while white people trying to emulate you, but they don't let you know that they're trying to emulate you. Because they've convinced you that you should emulate them.
Because they're trying to get what you want.
That's right.
I mean, what you already have.
Right. That's right.
Man, it is very informative. It's what's time again? 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes past. From all that you've said, it's clear that there's a big a disconnection. How does the new black leadership intend to mend the disconnection?
Yes, that's a great question, because we have an obligation to get to that point, because our greatest motivation, especially for me, I'll say personally, and for many of our members, is the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And one of the things that these two men have in common is that they try to prepare us and make us ready to reconnect with our people on the continent of what we call Africa.
Right.
Because they understood that we need to claim our cultural identity, but part of reclaiming our cultural identity is to reconnect with our family, that the families that we were stripped from when we went through Goree Island, when we went through the door of no return, when we got on those ships and our people didn't know where we were and where we landed, right? So we have a obligation to our ancestors. See, our ancestors chose to live and fight. That if you really study what happened to them starting on the slave ship, the average person, and some of them jumped over. Some of them said, I'm going to die. I'm not going to be a slave. I'm going. This first chance I get, I'm going to jump over, right? But others of them said, you know what? I want to live. They had something in them that said, I'm going to survive this, right? And so generation after generation, what they passed on to us in Black America is this thing that's impenetrable, right? So no matter what white people have put on us, somehow we keep bouncing back, right? Every time they think they're doing something to destroy us, we come bouncing back. So what I'm saying is but look, when you go to a place of culture and you don't have no culture, you're offensive. So Pookie can't come back to the motherland with people, that have some sense of culture and protocol and etiquette and respect for one another, and Pookie used to being in the hood, throwing trash everywhere, doing what we do in the hood, he's not going to be received well, right? And so when you go to a people who have some sense of culture, some connection to the land, you have to have you have to come properly, right? So what I'm trying to do, what I'm hoping we can do and inspire our members to do is to create a governing body in terms of Black leadership, Black organizers, Black activists, so that now when we get situated properly, right, where we are positioned to demand and command respect from other people. Now when we sit down from our brothers and sisters from the continent who work together, whose families come together and create wealth, who speak with one voice on the issues of Ghana or Nigeria or whatever nation state they may happen to be from, you all tend to speak more with one voice. We want to come to the table with our brothers and sisters with dignity and respect and let you know that, hey, your brother has grown up, your sisters have grown up, and now we can have a conversation on par and learn from you, and you learn from us, and you help us, and we help you, and now we lift the whole Black nation up, which is really the planet, because Black people are the original people all over the planet, and that's why Marcus Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said Black is universal.
There are more questions for you. What do you have to say to, all those rich Black celebrities and folks that have made it out of the community and are not necessarily connected or are not necessarily coming back? Because you talked about how we're not investing in our communities. What message do you have for these celebrities that we have that are gone out of the communities and are coming back to help?
Well, that's a great question, but the simple answer is the same message I have for the little brother that might be here on Wilson and Broadway doing what he do out there, right? That don't have any knowledge of himself. And when he got a pistol or a gun, he looking to shoot somebody that look like him.
Right.
If he's selling drugs, he's looking to sell it to somebody that look like him. If he's doing any manner or creating any mayhem, he's trying to do it to people that look like him, all because he's been stripped of the knowledge of himself. Therefore, he cannot act in love for himself and in his own real self-interest because he has never known his true self. Well, our black athletes are the same way as that little guy that feels like he got to get into street life and imitate goons and gangsters because he doesn't know anything. Well, if you understand the plight of our successful athletes, they go through a plantation system. So it starts now it starts even in elementary school, and they put you in a tournament system where you're scouted and you're recruited and you're groomed to go to from elementary school to high school. And then in high school, they scout you and groom you to pick the cream off the top. So the top athletes go to the big Division I schools, which are normally predominantly Caucasian. So when they take their first visit to the campus, it's a group of young white girls that have already been trained on how to cater to you and make you feel special because they want you to sign at that school. So for the weekend or the week that you go to visit that school, they wash your clothes. They'll iron your underwear if you ask them to. They'll cook for you. They'll go get food for you. They'll massage you. They'll have sex with you. They'll do whatever they need to do to get you on their campus because they know that if you are a LeBron James or whoever you want to name coming to a college, you represent multi-millions of dollars for that institution. So now when you get on a white environment, you're not seeing black women. Now, probably for the first time in your life, you're seeing predominantly white women, 99% white women, where you still a man, you still need affection, you still need love, you still need the touch of a woman, but the only women you have access to are Caucasian. Right? So now you are hooking up with the white woman, but she's been skilled in how to use her feminine power. She ain't gonna pop off at the mouth at you. She not gonna talk down on you. She not gonna resist a request or even a command you give her. She gonna submit to you because she been taught all her life to submit to a man. Now that's gonna stand in contrast with your black woman who don't respect you as a man. She ain't gonna obey hardly anything you say, especially if you don't have no money yet, right? So now they suck you in. They not teaching you the history of any of the legacy athletes who've suffered discrimination and racism and hatred. You don't know anything about the history of your people, right? So you stand up at every game, put your hand over your heart and sing the national anthem. So now you become more assimilated. You see yourself as America because now all of these white people have embraced you, so you think, and now they're ingratiating themselves to you and setting you up to make millions of dollars. So what motivation do you have to be a Colin Kaepernick or even a LeBron James to even speak out or wear a hoodie like he did after Trayvon Martin was assassinated? Most of our athletes are not conscious. They don't start from a conscious position. And if you don't catch them before they go to college, they don't gain consciousness till later on when they get a bogus case. They get ripped apart by the criminal justice, or they have some Jewish agent or lawyer who exploits and steals all their money. And now they got to open their eyes a little bit. Now they get a little courage, but they still don't have the knowledge of self. And when I say the knowledge of self, they don't know the rich history, the immeasurable history of black people that goes so far back in time that no archaeologist or historian has discovered the beginning of black culture. They don't have any of that body of information to buttress who they are as a person. So they get sucked in to Satan's world.
Is it the same as the Hollywood stars? And
absolutely. Absolutely.
What would you say to? There's this argument out there. Men and women, have these conversations, and I've heard it in a grapevine that black men are envious of their white Caucasian counterparts. What would you say to that?
black men are not envious of their white counterparts in that sense. Well, that might be a apropos term, as I understand the term of envy. But it is true that we aspire to be like white people. Like I said earlier, we
because you are being engineered,
socially engineered to believe that success is white people. So it's across the board. It's not just in Hollywood or sports. It's in politics. It's in religion. Look at the world of religion. Muslims want to be like white Arabs. Christians want to be like white Christians. All across the board, Western civilization has imposed itself on us as standards of beauty, power, and success. So look, in Chicago, we had wealthy men who were manufacturers, like Ed Gardner produced Soft Sheen. He had a factory on the South Side. Mr. Johnson, he had a publishing company on Michigan Avenue. First black man to have a high-rise on Michigan Avenue. Then you had his brother, had Johnson Products, with a huge complex on the South Side producing beauty care products. We had, I don't know how many black banks in Chicago. Now we have virtually nothing. Why? Because they made the business successful. Then their children come in and feel like it represents power and success to sell the business back to white people. So as a result, we, instead of building a business that can employ our own people, now we don't have anything.
Interesting. So can you speak on what is his name, Dr. Dre? You know, he had the Bose. He made
Beats,
the Bose.
that's right.
The Beats headsets.
Yes.
And then he sold it to Apple, I think.
Absolutely. Well, he still has a percentage, but this is what I'm saying.
Right.
We call it black excellence. This is the buzzword, right? So you look at Puffy or Jay-Z or Dr. Dre, that's black excellence, right? Because they got all this wealth and blah, blah, blah. And everybody looks at this other brother, Dame Dash, as though he's crazy because Dame Dash is saying, well, yeah, but that ain't real power, because real power is ownership, not being a marketing representative or a face. You know, we had the same phenomenon here in Chicago where Magic Johnson came to Chicago, right? He partnered with white folks and the mayor, and they and bought the use of his name. So he acted as though he was doing some good for black people in the hood by opening these alternative schools to help you get your high school diploma. And now 5, 6, 7 years later, however long it's been, we discover that it really never was his school. He just branded he sold the branding of his name. Right. So this is a mentality. This is a psychology. And what I'm saying is that means I'm trying to be like white, because white people do it all day. They sell business. Right. Well, they can afford to do that because it's their system. But when you are an oppressed people, you have to build your own internal independent system.
So you can pass it on.
So you can buttress and withstand those external forces of oppression, and yes, pass it on to your people, to your children or somebody else's children who's from your community. That's how you establish and maintain power and make people respect you.
Good. Mr. Michael, you made a comment. I mean, you touched on something earlier, which I want us to revisit. You said we don't have a culture in terms of the African American, like you don't have a culture. But somebody also argued that there is an African American culture. Like we do have a culture. Like we have.
Yes, that's true.
Right. Yeah. You know. So yeah. So so maybe we can identify some of the things that African Americans do, which we will say this is their culture.
Well, I would say most of our culture is derivative of our slave experience. So when you talk about, we glamorize soul food. As an example. Well, every menu item on a soul food menu is actually food of desperation. It's food that our fathers had to eat in chattel slavery because the slave masters, by and large, did not give us regular food. We had to eat the food that the animals ate because that's what chattel means. That's what chattel slavery means. That's why in the U.S. Constitution, we were considered no more than 3/5 human. We were considered just like a horse or cow or chicken. We were chattel property. So that soul food is a diet of desperation, where we had to take the food of animals and adapt it to make it our food. So when we were emancipated in 1865, we didn't do a critical examination of slave life. We carried forward many of the elements of slave life, and soul food is a perfect example of that, because at the end of the day, we have to deal with the fact that black people in America, we are number one in high blood pressure, sugar diabetes, a heart attack, cancer. We're number one in these categories. And you can't detach that from the slave diet that we call soul food. So yes, soul food is our culture, but it's a culture, it's a low culture that is derivative from a people who never were reinculcated to their original culture.
So we want to really appreciate you. Again, we are looking forward to working together so we can solidify the relationship between us and then you. We are one people, but there had been an artificial divide.
Yes.
And that artificial divide, we have the capacity to be able to break it.
Yes.
And so, again, thank you all so much. We appreciate you, the African-American community. We love you as Africans. We love you as our brothers and our sisters. Again, to those who chimed in and contributed to this show. Actually, let me read this comment from my brother Michael before I leave. I know I'm a few minutes past the time, 2 minutes, but please forgive me. Michael, my brother Michael Anthony says, we thank you too, Minister Mohammed. Hopefully next time we can do this longer. Sorry I couldn't call in on time. God bless Alinko. So people are really interested. And this is a brother also from the African community.
Yes.
And of course, he is digging the information. And so we intend on sitting down here and having a tete-a-tete, a dialogue on how we can all move together and solidify and grow our communities. Once again, thank our listeners. I thank our listeners for chiming in, for contributing. Those who called in, those who were not able to call in, thank you all for your moral support. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. This has been your servant, host of Progressive Minds, Alinko. See you next week. Bye-bye.